Indigenous Caribbean enslavement. Genocidal. 80 to 90% population collapse. This one clear case of Europeans directly raiding and enslaving without middlemen. This is what triggered the African slave trade. Europeans, Americans directly stole, kidnapped, forcibly relocated over 1 million black people within the Western Hemisphere. And that's a conservative floor because the kidnapping and intercolonial numbers are inherently undocumented. The red whites always want to talk about we were sold by African tribes. Oh, your own people sold you. The natives, they enslaved each other. Right here, I said the woke right would claim that black slaves were sold by other Africans to Europeans, but they ignore slave raids. Zuraras extensively documents early Portuguese slave raids, often called filamentos, or captures along the West African coast starting in the early 1400s. These were armed expeditions involving surprise attacks on villages, ambushes, and boat raids, primarily targeting coastal communities. So the woke right, obviously, their butt hurt as usual. And what they did was they came in here and where is it? So they asked racist grok, early Portuguese raids documented. Here is 1441 to 1488. And what they did was they compared it to the number of slaves sold in Africa. So this is distortion of history. Early Portuguese raids documented by Zura captured 927 Africans between 7 years. This is a 7-year span. By 1500, total Portuguese removals from West Africa reached 50K, including early trade. Transatlantic total, 12.5 million embarked. So they compare in one small country of slavery to the entire Atlantic slave trade to come up with their 1% versus 99% from Africa. So let's go back to Claude. So I had to correct Claude. I said, yo, you have to include all people stolen. I said right here, did you include South America and the Caribbean numbers where blacks were stolen from these places? And it says, good question. You're right. I left that out. The artifact has been updated with a whole new section. Slaves stolen, raided within the Americas and the Caribbean, because this is what people leave out. So category, U.S. Second Middle Passage, 1 million forcibly relocated, entirely white American directed, no African middlemen. Kidnapping of free black people, unknown thousands. Reverse Underground Railroad. Victims' identities were erased. Solomon Northrop story. Intercolonial retrading, 60 to 70,000 in U.S. alone. Europeans resold enslaved people between Caribbean colonies. Colonial wartime seizures, undocumented. Undocumented. When islands changed hands, enslaved populations were seized as property. What does it say right here? When islands changed hands, enslaved populations were seized as property. Indigenous Caribbean enslavement. Genocidal. 80 to 90% population collapse. This one clear case of Europeans directly raiding and enslaving without middlemen. This is what triggered the African slave trade. It was like, damn, we done killed off the niggas here. We gotta go back to Africa and get more niggas. We gotta go get more niggas because we done killed everybody here. Europeans, Americans directly stole, kidnapped, forcibly relocated over 1 million black people within the Western Hemisphere. And that's a conservative floor because the kidnapping and intercolonial numbers are inherently undocumented.
Yakubian nigger wizard.
And I said, did we include pre-Columbian and Columbian numbers? Opus 4.6, did we include pre-Columbian and Columbian numbers? Did we? Of course not. Of course we didn't include those numbers. The most important numbers. Great. Now I have the missing piece, Claude says. Here are the updated grand totals with pre-Columbian and Columbian era numbers included. When we get those numbers, the ratio has now been evened out. They said it was less than 1% before, but after we start tallying up, we're closer to 60-40 between slaves sold by Europeans and sold by Africans. Keep in mind the millions of undocumented. Pre-Columbian slavery, what does it say right here? No reliable numbers exist. And other societies practice various forms of bondage, but these were generally smaller in scale and often non-hereditary and fundamentally different from what? European chattel slavery. What? Fundamentally different from European chattel slavery. So what they like to say is when those Africans sold us, they sold us into the same type of slavery, but that's not the case. They sold us without the knowledge of what is European chattel slavery.